All right, let's get into the Big Ten. So earlier today, the Big Ten announced that it is returning to football. Woo! Whoopee, whoopee. And then you read the fine print. It's not that they return the weekend of October 23rd, 24th, right? It's the ways in which they have chosen to do this. So you get the vote that says, cool, we're going to return to football with these sorts of aspects that we're going to focus on. One of which is the testing. So I took a look at the press release and I read it from top to bottom because, it's my job. And I get to this part. The Big Ten Conference will use data provided by each chief infection officer to make decisions about the continuation of practice and competition as determined by team positivity rate and population positivity rate based on a 7-day rolling average. So the team positivity rate that you cannot exceed is 5%. The population positivity rate that you cannot exceed is 7.5%. So what this means is if 7.5% of your eligible population, say at Ohio State, that'd be Ohio State University, has COVID, you got to shut down football. If 5% of your football team tests positive, you have to shut down football. So if you're only including, let's say, 100 kids in that means 5 kids test positive, you got to shut down football. Now, if you want to try to inflate the numbers by adding staff and adding coaches, fine. But I submit to you, Texas Tech has had 79 people test positive for COVID, and they had 5 last week. I just told you about how LSU had 5 last week and has had most of the team test positive. This idea that herd immunity is a good thing is wildly dangerous, but also not likely to happen between now and December. It's not going to happen. And that's before we tell you you can get it again. Like there's no knowledge to say that you can't. So it feels like the Big Ten put together some protocols that are either going to make it exemplary and a case study in how to do this, or they're going to fail miserably. And that's even before we decide that 8 games is enough to get them into the college football playoff without any bye weeks. Think about how many postponements we have had since the return to football in August. 2 a week is what we're averaging. You don't think that's going to happen in the Big Ten? You think the Big Ten is somehow immune? Ain't no way. Shout out Jesse Acosta. Appreciate that, dog. Come in a member. Nah, that's what's up. You can be a member of this channel for 99 cents a month. I don't know if I've said that. I make over 100 videos a month. You're basically getting a penny per video. Come on, man. That's why when people tell me, yo, RJ, wouldn't you make a video about Coastal Carolina? I'm like, I'm going to get to it. Or just dig through the catalog. Chances are I have talked about your football team at some point. And if they're good, that's what we're going to get. And you get the badge for 99 cents. And the badge alerts me that you are a member, and I get to your question or your comment with the quickness. But back to the Big Ten, there's a lot of moving pieces to this. Barry Alvarez even came out and said we could see games on Monday nights and Friday nights. Can you imagine Big Ten football up against Monday Night Football? That's a loss. As much as I love college football, the NFL is king, right? I should probably be doing way more NFL content on this channel because there's more NFL fans because the NFL is a national brand. Big Ten is a regional brand. SEC is a regional brand. Big 12 is a regional brand. And you can't talk to anybody in Texas about the Big Ten. You can only talk about Ohio State coming down there to rate them of their kids. You can't talk to anybody in Ohio about how Texas might be good. Nobody's hearing your Texas is back stuff there because we don't actually have continuity. We have regionality. And I really do wish we had a super conference or a super league so we could unite the country around one college football program. And by program, I mean league. Because that might actually give us a little bit more standing in the national conversation. But as it stands right now, yo, man, that just ain't what it's going to be. Diego, appreciate you, homie. Right on, right on. Very cool. And as we continue to talk about the Big Ten and Ohio State and Michigan and the like, I'm also going to add this in here. I know that Ohio State fans are very excited about the prospect of getting Wyatt Davis and Shaun Wade back. But I would ask you, what is their incentive for returning? Like, Shaun Wade's birthday's today, and he was going to sell a draft grade. Shaun Wade got a first-round draft grade. Last time I checked, you can't do any better than first-round draft grade. So all you have to do to return is to win a national championship. And we're not even sure that Big Ten teams should be eligible for the college football playoff. I do, but we aren't. Because 8 games versus 10 for the rest of us, 8 plus 1 with having 2 days worth of 9 games. Not 9 games, but of the plus 1 games, because apparently that final weekend, you have 1 versus 2 and 2 versus 1 or whatever. Just didn't make any sense. And again, no bye weeks, meaning you're going to lose games rather than get to recover them. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't look like it's going to work. If it does work, we'll talk about it. But an Ohio State team that runs the table, playing 1 fewer game than the rest of the country, that gets into the playoff is only going to serve to piss people off, which is the same as it always was, right? Nobody's ever going to be happy in college football. Like, my refrain is, college football has never, ever, ever been fair. However, you can try to make it more fair. You can make it fairer. They just don't want to. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the point there. And as we continue to talk about things like Minnesota getting back, Penn State getting back, Nebraska getting back, Iowa getting back, to what end? For the money. That's what the 8 plus 1 schedule is about. It's about money. Like in Madison, they're expecting to lose $80 to $120 million from their fall economy. Same thing was true in State College in Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. Same thing was true in Columbus, where literally everybody else in the state except Toledo, right, was playing college football or NFL football or high school football except Ohio State. Like Cincinnati kicks off its season this weekend. Ohio State still hasn't played. Like, that's a problem for them. All while we still await the start of the SEC season. So it's also interesting in that the Sun Belt's off to a roaring start. You might have an undefeated Conference USA team. Like if Marshall gets past Appalachian State, that's a great data point. If Appalachian State gets past Marshall, runs the table, that's a great data point. Central Florida could run the table. Memphis, if they get their season back on, could run the table. SMU's really good. You know, we keep going through the American, you find good teams. Like, Lord help us if Houston beats Baylor this weekend. That's another bad loss for the Big 12. All to say that if Oklahoma or Texas don't go undefeated, I don't see a Big 12 team getting in, which might leave you room for a Big 10 team. But if that Big 10 team is 8-1 with a conference championship versus Oklahoma, who's 10-0, or see, even make it better, 9-1 with a loss to a top 10 Texas team, who gets in? How do you figure it out? These are interesting questions. Add to this, there's always the prospect of 2 SEC teams getting in. Would you put in a 2-loss SEC team over a 1-loss Oklahoma or a 1-loss Ohio State? It's an interesting question. You also have totally screwed up the TV schedules, right? Because now you're going to try to get as many of these Big Ten games in on Fox and the like. The Big Ten Network's probably going to have a bunch of them. You also are playing with Pac-12 After Dark, which the Big 12 got into. So are we going to see Rutgers versus Maryland at 9 o'clock? Probably. I'm like you, going to be able to get college football the way that we had it last year. It's gone. Are we doing more harm than good in trying to get this started? Maybe. I do like that somebody's trying to do something, but also knowing when to pull the plug is very important as well. Because I don't think anybody has actually admitted when they expect the drop dead date to be. You're just going to postpone games until you postponed more games than you can play, and that'll be your drop dead date. But I don't think that anybody has that in their mind right now. What else got in here?